What's up, guys? In this skybox video, we'll be looking at Astralis on Overpass on the CT side, and we'll be covering the openings of all 15 rounds that they played against Fnatic. And this is from a recent LAN game, as recent as a LAN game could be given the current circumstances surrounding COVID-19 and that effectively shutting down LAN Counter-Strike for the time being. But I think it's an interesting concept for a video to look at the whole picture for a half, because a team may approach a game with a game plan, and you can have a pretty strong CT side game plan on Overpass as you have so many options available to you. But things do change as the game goes on. The context can be different. Either something doesn't go according to plan, or the other team has something that throws you off, or maybe they have an answer for some of the things that you already have prepared and you have to adapt on the fly. So what we're going to be looking at is not the mid or late round, as I say, but we're looking at just these snapshots of the openings. And the openings serve a few purposes. They serve the purpose to set yourself up to gain as much advantage as you can later on, as well as making things as difficult as possible for the T side and making things as hard to read as possible, as well as creating a situation where you're winning on the utility game, you're winning on the information game, you're winning on the time game, because obviously the Ts are against the clock. And hopefully you're winning on the fragging game as well. It's to set you up in all of these kinds of ways. So without further ado, we're going to just go through the concepts as they appear. Let's get into the first round. Okay, so first round is a pistol. And so this is a classic pistol, a really, really classic pistol. You get one guy that goes towards a fountain peak and everybody else goes towards B. And this is, most of you will probably already understand the reason for this. The B-bomb site is more difficult to hold in a pistol rush situation. It's different on a gun rounds. On a gun rounds, you might want to play more retake B, because retaking B with nades is actually a lot easier than retaking A if the T's are set up. But in this case, what's really cool is that you get lots of information because of this vision, and you can fall back, you can fall back, you can fall back, and you have all these fallback positions. So you can slow them down. Obviously, at some point, you will give connector to them as well, so that is a possibility. But if this player sees a lot of opponents, then if there's a setup already allowing for this, you can have a quick take of the Suez position, and then you basically block off this rotation to be through this choke point of the door, of course, over here. So it's really classic, super safe, deals with everything, deals with the rush timing towards A, deals with the rush timing towards B. Because on B, you have people in place. On A, you can fall back and then give your teammates information they can rotate. Super easy stuff. So you can see that they're just playing it by the book there. In the next rounds, we're going to see Fnatic did get a bomb down. They lost the rounds. We can actually quickly check it out. So you can see they got the bomb down here. They end up losing the rounds, but they got some kills. So that's some kill bonus, and they got some money from the bomb plant. So as we're seeing in the meta right now, because it's so strong, we get the force buy from the T side. I'm just going to move my camera here so that you guys can see that. I always forget to do this. Ooh. And there we go. So you can see the buy of the T side here is Galil, Scout, some nades. So this is pretty expected in the current meta that this would be coming. So let's look at what Astralis do. So we're going to see, okay, some consistencies here. We get the smoke here towards the fountain choke point. We get the short B molly, and we get the smoke from Monster as well. What this effectively does is, and this is a really important principle, so I'm going to take some time on this one, is by taking some forward presence with this utility. If we start off with the B utility, obviously the smoke here in Monster creates a huge risk for the T side. They would have to invest heavily and have flashes and stuff to really push through this. So this does give some safety for this player who's playing this position, and the Ts can't hold the big angles. They can't. So the CTs could effectively be playing a multitude of positions. They could be playing on the right side. There could be like a two-man setup. There could be a setup like this. There could be all kinds of setups. They don't really know. But if there's no smoke here, obviously they can quickly get an angle. So they can kind of get more information. So it denies information, and it makes a rush more risky unless you want to invest a lot of utility and really go all in. So that's not the case here. This molly is really important, just as this one is for the T side. Both of these mollies do the same thing, but for either side. It's about ruining the timing of the other team. If I, as a T side, throw this molly and the CTs don't throw anything into the sewers, then what happens is effectively I offset their timing. Now, I know that they're going to be stuck behind this, whereas I'm going to get a free position anywhere in the sewers area. So That's amazing. That means I just, through this one Molotov, I have control of this position. So effectively what happens is it forces the CTs to throw that counter molly, which does exactly the same job. So let's say there's not a molly here, but the CTs throw this molly here. Same principle. Now, if I'm a T player, my timing is ruined because of the 7.5 seconds this molly is up. So that means that I have to question everything. This whole area is a huge question mark. If I'm going to want to push through the tunnels here, I'm probably going to need a flashbang over the top or something like that, or I'm going to need a pinch from connector so I can kind of we can double peek this. But otherwise, it's going to be a nightmare to really figure out what's going on. So by throwing a molly, the T throwing molly and the CT throwing molly, it kind of evens things out a little bit more. Obviously, it can be a little bit more favorable for the CTs, but it can depend on the game and the equipment and everything. So regardless, so you see that's these principles happening towards the B bomb site. Now, if we look at the smoke over here. This is a huge one because generally speaking, as the CTs, you always want to have some kind of pressure towards the fountain position. You don't want to necessarily commit at all. You don't want to lose a player, and you don't want to invest too much utility. But by just throwing this smoke, it does the same thing as these bits of utility over here. What it does is it creates a huge question mark. The CTs could be anywhere behind this. They could have a forward aggressive setup. They could have maybe a setup, two-man setup over here. They could have, a player here. They could have gone down connector, or they could be playing a two-man setup on long. There's just like an unlimited amount almost of things that they could be doing. So it just creates this huge question mark. And what that forces the Ts to do is it forces them to burn time and utility in respecting the fact that the team could set up any number of things behind this smoke. So that is the purpose of this pressure. It's effectively this principle of playing aggressive to most effectively play defensively, because you're costing the other team so much utility and time that by the time they get to a bomb site, you yourselves have you have more time to rotate if you need to get information to inform the rotations, and also you get more time to potentially get a pick depending on some of the information that your team has gathered. So it gives you so much. If there wasn't a smoke here and the Ts can just move up and just swing angles for free, it really creates a lot of problems for the CTs. So having a smoke or some kind of pressure in this position is quite important. Right, okay, so that's big concepts. And now we're going to see a bit of extra names, and we're going to see them falling back. So I'm going to just check this out and see how the movement is. So this is like the most extreme response in terms of playing it passive. And one of the reasons is because they know that the other team has a force buy here. So you're not necessarily expecting an enormous degree of grenades, but you can definitely expect that they may try to rush down positions together. And so if you're holding a forward setup and they rush you down, that's going to be pretty tough for you to deal with. The safest thing to do to kind of use your advantage and utility is to just play on the sites, let them clear stuff, let them take their time, and you can then delay them with your own smoke grenades if need be, and that will allow for a quick rotation from the CTs from B to A. And on this map, the rotations are pretty quick. There's not a lot of maps where the rotations are quite as quick as this one, so between the bomb sites. So that's one of the reasons why you can play like that. Okay, so going into the next round, we're going to see... okay, so device is picked up an AWP. We're going to get the molly. I don't know if it's actually disappearing here or what's happened to this molly. Let's have a look again. Because you can see Dupree throws the molly. Okay, it looks like it actually missed or something, but regardless, the idea is that there's a molly there. Okay, and we can see that there is, once again, this molly here for the CT side, this smoke for the CT side. So we're seeing some consistencies. Again, blocking off timings towards B, shutting down early options towards B. And this is another reason, by the way, like knowing that as the T side, you'll have to invest quite a lot to actually get these positions. Most teams do just enjoy just slowly taking their time, clearing the front positions around the bathrooms. And then once they have control of this, they can kind of pinch on connector. And once they've pinched on connector, maybe the lurker can now start pressuring from here, and then they can get, true mid control where they take sewers away from the CTs. That's a possibility. So that's generally why you'd want to start around like that. And that's why the Molotov would go down here from the CTs, because what they're trying to do is shut down everything you could possibly want to do at the beginning of the round. So here Device will take a quick peek with the AWP, and he's going to shoot and miss his shot, and now he's going to fall back. So again, the smoke's not here, but the presence was. So that kind of effectively is a similar concept, because even though, again, there's no smoke, they know that device has an AWP now, so they have to be careful of AWPing angles. They have to flash everything off. They've got to use their smokes to deny line of sight and all the rest of it. And Astralis play extremely safe by just going all the way to the back of the site, and we're going to see it takes time for fnatic to slowly clear this. And we have like a 2-man setup here as dupreeh plays this close, and device has the ability to peek if necessary. And I don't know if that's going to come into play, but I just want to show an example of how long it's going to take the T side to actually get forward position. So there's a trade here, dupreeh kind of commits and smokes and so on. They're not on the bomb site yet. They have very limited map control, and there's 50 seconds left, and there's still 4 CTs remaining. So this is obviously a pretty, you know, big problem for the T side usually. So going into the next round, we'll see once again the molly. This time it lands. We get a double molly from Astralis here. So quickly we're going to see same. Okay, so same smoke, same molly here. The T side, obviously they're on a shitty buy, so they can't do too much about this. And that's one of the reasons why not only are the TTs shutting this down, but they're going very aggressive to shut this down. And another reason as well why this is really useful to double molly this is because if they don't smoke this, then these players are going to be stuck behind this Molotov. If they're able to maybe have a timing where they can push past this molly and get towards playground, well, they're denied getting into playground. They're going to be stuck exactly where Brolan is, and this is something that the CTs will realize, so now they can try to swing this position. And you can see that Brolan actually defends it, and Glaive wasn't in a spot to actually trade that kill, which is unfortunate. So this actually backfires a little bit for Astralis, but the idea is kind of good. The idea is to, knowing that your opponents don't have almost any utility in this round because they're saving, if they want to have a forward timing anywhere, they'll have to smoke this to run through it with numbers. Now, we would normally see, I think, Astralis getting the kill around here, and then in this position we would be effectively locked down because they could then potentially drop a forward smoke. dupreeh has a smoke. I'm actually surprised he doesn't drop it, but again, Astralis do want to cut as many corners as possible to be as efficient as possible. So you want to always, you know, walk that line of throwing a smoke as late as possible. But you know, ultimately, you know, he went for the fight first. So yeah, that's another opening again from Astralis going to the 5th round. Another opening here will probably be quite similar. Just looking for the same things. Okay, so again, we get the same things. Now, these consistent aspects are important because what this tells you as a player is that these are nades. You need to know this nade and you need to know this nade. You need to know these two. Very important because you have to always be throwing them. And there is a reason why Astralis always throw them. It's because, again, the Ts will likely almost always be wanting to throw this. And even if they don't throw that, it's kind of a problem because that means that definitely the CTs could be in some setups in the Suez position, which is very powerful. So you kind of have to always do it. And this smoke early on is always really powerful as well because it does discourage those rush timings. So, you know, focusing on the action towards the A side of the map now, once again, we see that this time actually dupreeh is not going to throw his molly. And the flash comes in for the device. He wanted to take a peek. He doesn't get. He gets a shot off after getting blind, and then falls back. Then a flash comes through to make sure that he can fall back safely. Now dupreeh is in a great position, a cheeky little off angle, and it's effectively a bait setup if the device stays there, but he actually falls back. But still a pretty nice right eye peek angle. So this is where things start to get a little bit different in terms of the setups for the CTs on the A side of the map. As far as the B side of the map goes, you know, they go for a boost here. They just want some little bit of information, see if there's anything at all going on towards this side of the map. And they'll see that there's nothing going on here. And given that there's been presence here, it's unlikely that too much is really happening over here. And usually in these rounds, you can read it's probably just one guy who's lurking around Monster to make sure that you don't push it as the CTs. So right now, Astralis would have a very good guess that there's at least 3 to 4 players from these positions. And once again, they play it pretty passively, leaving dupreeh in this off angle because he also has... actually has the M4 now. But playing these sneaky positions can be really, really important because you're just... You know, even if it's a spot that, like, objectively you can say, well, maybe it's a one and done. Well, in some cases, it can be good to do that to throw off the other team, especially because if it's very unexpected that you would make a play like that, you may actually be able to get a lot, like, pretty massive value from it. And I think that is actually the case here. So you can see that fnatic are actually, by the way, I won't often go to the mid round at all, but this is getting there. But I wanted to show this. So you can see that here is actually a mistake from fnatic because JW is aiming towards Divider, And he's also, you can see you can go into his perspective. So he is going to be shifting his aim from Divider to this off angle, to Dupree. You can see that he is trying to deal with this position. Now his teammate peeks, and Dupree is just jiggling. So JW cannot trade this. Then a late swing comes in from Golden, who is committed to try to trade that kill because JW is not in a position to do so, and he's also unable to trade the kill. Now, if we look at Dupree, and I always like to highlight these spots, Dupree is playing the right angle, so Dupree gets a slight advantage here in this peak. You know, he sees his opponent first, ever so slightly, and he get the kill. And he's able to trade that. So there you go. It's just a small inefficiency there for Fnatic, not allowing JW to be deep enough to actually have a real swing against this position. But again, it can be difficult because you're not always expecting, even though you're checking for stuff, you're not always expecting someone to actually be in one of these unlikely positions. So, I don't want to like throw Fnatic under the bus too heavily for this. This is just one of those things that happens in Counter-Strike. So anyway, on to the next round. Let's see the opening again. So exactly the same stuff, more or less. This time, we're going to see the CT's molly, and it'll get smoked by the T's. Okay. Also, we're going to see the CTs respond by smoking this. So we haven't seen this just yet. And the buy for the T side, as you can see, is pretty suspect. It's not very good. So it's a passive approach from Dupree and Device after throwing this incendiary. And usually if you throw this incendiary, it does mean that maybe you're thinking, maybe you as the CTs are thinking of playing somewhat aggressively or challenging, and maybe there could be a CT and connector for all the Ts know. But one thing that we can notice as a consistent theme here is that Astralis are not being very aggressive whatsoever. We're into the 6th round, the 6th opening, and they've been throwing the same nades around B and the same pressure around Fountain and the T steps, T-con, whatever you want to call it. And they've generally just fall back pretty quickly to the bomb site. And the only time we haven't seen that is when Dupree held this off angle and Device was kind of nearby for support. But generally speaking, they just fall all the way back. And that's how they've started out. That's how they started out their openings. Now, the smoke, when you smoke this, the T's will hear that. And given the fact that they didn't smoke this means that, again, this is now a question mark. There could be CTs there. But Astralis are using this to waste time, because that's what happens when you do something like this. You have the option to push it and gain that advantage, or you have the option to not do that, play it a little bit more safe by allowing them to take that position and just gambling that they're going to probably expend more time and more utility to clear those positions because you could be there. So that's an important thing at the top level. There are times when teams don't use these ideas correctly, but generally speaking with Astralis, they know what they're doing. And I have all the evidence to believe that. So, right, so next opening. Oh, and by the way, another reason that they would play passively here is and take the more safe approaches is because, again, they know the kind of buy their opponents are on. Okay, so into the next round. Alrighty. Get a slightly better angle. Okay, so we're going to see the same utility mostly. Okay, so we don't get the monster smoke here, but what we do get is Zipex, I think it is. Yeah, it's going to be Zipex. Okay, well, let's check Zipex out. This smoke is pretty epic. The path that this smoke takes, it goes all the way to the T-ramp here. Pretty awesome to see that. So, big smoke from Zipex. No monster smoke. Double incendiary. Now, again, this is just like impossible for the T's to push this really without throwing a forward smoke. So the CTs can get a lot of freedom towards this position. And then now in Dupree spotting this angle, knowing that the T's cannot possibly be, and it's actually impossible right now for them to be in playground and not be dead, or for the CT to know about it, all he has to do is peek this one spot. And now he knows that there's nothing towards this. And because there's a smoke down, they can basically just gamble on the fact that whilst that smoke is up, and because there's these Molotovs there, the T's will not push this without some kind of utility, some kind of tell. So they can fall back and they can plan around the worst case scenario here, which is a fast timing towards B, which is actually specifically in this round what is precisely happening. So we're going to see, let's just rewind so we can follow the B action. So as I mentioned, the smoke goes here, so it doesn't go towards Monster this time. we do get the molly in the short B tunnel, and we get the CTs blowing open the door. Now, this is really important that the CTs blow open the door because it does slow down the default timings of the T side typically, because the CTs can can't really draw a straight line very well, but the CTs can obviously, once that door is being blown open, they can have angles, they can see rotations, they can jump spot this. There's all sorts of like information that they can get from it, and it's generally quite favorable for the CTs to be blowing up that door, and it is actually quite in the meta right now. So focusing on the action towards B, you can see that this time Magisk actually is going to use this incendiary for once. Now, I don't know that there was a flashbang. What was it? Yeah, there was a pop flash for him. And he's going to peek, and he's going to kill 2 people and do some serious damage to 2 other people as well. So you can see when Astralis do stuff like take peeks in positions, they actually hit a flash with it, and they do damage with it. And so I just want to... This is actually really cool to see this round in its entirety, because you see how that the CT side, although they don't 100% know that no one's sitting behind this smoke, they're not like milling around and just hanging out and pushing positions and just doing stuff in forward places. They're actually thinking to themselves, okay, well, what is like the most consistent way to play this particular round if we have this kind of an opening that's very aggressive? Well, given how aggressive it is, it's much more likely that the other team has to respond by taking fast position towards the B-bomb side, because we have otherwise so much control here. It's going to be so hard for them to work that back. It's going to take so much time. The instinct is going to be to try to take these positions as quickly as possible for the T side. So that means that they're going to rotate back to make sure that if there is a fast response in a rush, which as I mentioned, there is likely going to be some kind of fast response from the T side, they have something to deal with it in the setup. And given the fact that we had this molly and then this flashbang for Magisk to get the peak, and he's just playing by himself like this whole round is just, they are the puppet masters in this round. They've completely dictated Fnatic what they should be doing. And if you look at that, I think it is just pure brilliance, honestly, from Astralis that they've done it like this. So massive credit. Love. This is maybe my favorite rounds, I gotta say, overall out of this video, but we'll go into the following ones. So next round, we're gonna get a similar setup here. Is it Zipex that does the flash? Or the smoke, sorry. Yes, he does. So he does the same opening. He's actually going to be with his teammates, and they actually will go aggressively here. So the flash goes forward for Dupree. We're kind of ignoring the action towards B for now. Dupree gets to the deep position. And he is able to... So typically, for like having a deep position here, you're going to be pretty favorable a lot of the time, I would say, as the CTs. And so even though he ends up dying here, which is a problem, I think this is a pretty good play. But this is what I was mentioning at the beginning of the video. Sometimes things don't go according to plan, obviously. Let's just quickly look at what happened towards B. So same molly from the CTs. This time, it actually gets smoked whilst this molly is up, which means that you can push through without being afraid that the CT will be in this position. So Flusher has the lurk on B, gets this position for his team. Flusher is a good lurk to watch, by the way. He's been doing it for a very long time. So this is like the worst situation we've seen for Astralis at the opening so far, because not only does the play here get blown up, but also they lose position here as well. So this is the least control of the map that they've had out of the openings in all 8 rounds that they've played so far. The other 7 rounds they were winning in that sense. Okay, so cool. I don't really have too much to add on that, and without going into a mid-round discussion. So we'll go into the next opening. Again, we're looking at consistencies too, and like the permutations of this as well. So again, we see the same smoke, the same molly. This time we're going to get a pistol rush through the smoke. Same incendiaries here again, and look again, they can fall back, they can play different positions after throwing these forward nades. And it's going to be a rush into they're going to try to rush with the flashbang. This looks like a good spot for Glaive, doesn't get very much, but regardless, just looking at the openings here. And Dupree is a fast position through. Okay, cool. I'm really trying to control myself here and not get into the mid rounds too much. Okay, so we're going to see Dupree throw his molly. It's going to get extinguished immediately. Device is playing a more passive position with the orb this time. He gets smoked. He falls back to long. to make sure that no one's coming along. And then also this gives him now a free passage to the A bomb site and to a pretty good spot that if the T's are quite deep at the point in which he arrives here, he's able to kind of play this position, and his teammates will have time to rotate to throw flashbangs over the top to kind of support him. So that's one of the reasons why this pathing makes a lot of sense, to keep device safe, but also to give him information on what's happening towards long, and also to allow him to like have a retake possibility with his teammates. If the CTs lose position on this bomb site and the bomb goes down and device is able to stay alive in this position, it means that the T's cannot play in long for the post plant, which allows the device, as I mentioned, to play off of any of his teammates in these positions. So then you have these positions as opposed to only these positions, and then possibly a flank that's very disconnected from the bank and the jump up players. So I just wanted to explain that quickly. And another quick difference as well is we don't get the monster smoke, but we do get a smoke here on the molly, which suggests that maybe there's a push through here. But in reality, instead, they're actually pushing monster tunnel. And boom, look at this pop flash. It's so devious because this molly means that now that if there are players here, they're going to be looking towards this direction, given that this was left open most likely. And so with the flashbang, if they are distracted and looking towards the aggression that they think is telegraphed towards sewers, they're going to get kind of shot here most likely. So a pretty cool little setup. Obviously doesn't end up working out too much because Flush is playing it really passively, but then there's a nade smoke here which allows Glaive to push forwards and take all this control, which again forces the T side to have to push towards A because they've lost far too much control towards the B side of the map. And the interesting thing here again is, as I said, look at the detail here from Astralis. Smoking this telegraphs that you're pushing this. They're not pushing this, but because they're making their opponent think that they're pushing this and that they would have advantage if they would, they are effectively pushing this position because their opponents will not be. So Astralis have this position, and by pushing this with all of their personnel, because their personnel didn't push this position, now they have also this as well. So they're like doing double the work here, which is pretty impressive the way that this is set up, which again creates this situation where they're being so proactive that now they know the T's have to go towards A. They don't have a choice otherwise, unless they were to come through connector. But again, the safest choice for them is to go A. So they're probably going to go A. We can even look and see how it plays out. Okay, they're going to try to retake connector here. And this is really smart from Fnatic because, again, as I mentioned, like, if they went A, it would be kind of the same situation as if you're playing on Inferno as a T side. The CTs take deep banana control, and you're just like, yeah, cool, I guess we'll just go to take top mid and go A then. You know, sure, that's your best option in that spot, but in reality, if you have the time to spend to be able to clear out at least one position, then you can at least cast the spell of doubt in the CTs so they can't have everyone defending this site. So they're doing the correct thing in that sense. But as you can see, this is the issue. There is a player in this position who can control this, and I wonder if they blew open the door. Actually, as I mentioned previously, they have not in this particular instance. So there you go. Right. Okay. So into the next round. We're almost there, guys. Okay. What is the opening here? We got a smoke on Fountain again. Glaive goes beyond it. Obviously, it's a different setup here. Glaive didn't have too much. Device is trying to support from above the smoke. He goes down as well. So they go a bit more aggressive here. They try to like, they haven't shown much aggression at all, committed aggression like this. And they definitely haven't shown a long player here as well with this. The idea would have been that they would have gotten a pick, or at least a trade, and then Magis can capitalize on the distraction, but obviously that doesn't happen. Or Dupree, sorry. So Dupree just has to hold this position. He can't really push it because this is 100% being held. Again, if there's no distraction, you can't just push into angles when there's so many T's. You got to just wait it out. And so there you go. So that got kind of blown up. We can look quickly what happened towards B. Almost nothing going on towards B here for the CTs. They had a little bit less utility than usual. Okay. That's round 12. We started to see a little bit more aggression towards Fountain, and they're on the pistols here, so this is not worth talking about too much. Okay, we'll go to the next one. And Smoke Monster. Flashbang over, challenging the smoke for once. But you can see the problem here. Glaive actually wins this fight. Challenge towards sewers, but again, we see a different opening in terms of how the players are positioned. So even though they smoke this off, this time they're going to go down connector with 2 players. And, you know, oftentimes you like having 3 on B and 2 on A, and that's what Astralis have been running. But here they're going to have play 2 or 3 towards A, but the 2 are going towards connector. So there's like really fast support, and you can kind of crunch on the short position pretty effectively. Or you can kind of let your teammates, you know, watch over monster whilst you kind of put pressure on sewers. And we're going to see the boost. So this is actually like so perfect, the timing for this. As you can see, they're actually like, the T's are actually looking towards this. And I don't know if there was a bait here. We'll actually quickly look, because that'd be really cool if we see a bait from Astralis. So there's no bait, but you can see that when you the first position you clear is this, because you are worried about the boost there. Because if they're boosted, they will just get a free kill. So you have to worry about that. But you can see at the same timing as you kind of look for that boost, you got this coming in. And this boost here is like actually very hard to spot, and it's something that is used very seldomly. You maybe use it once a game in your opening, and you can see why. Look how powerful it is. dupreeh gets 1, and that's basically enough at this point. And they have this position, so really cool aggressive mix up on their openings. It gives them a decisive advantage. We're going into the last couple rounds here, and we get the so the T's molly this as per usual, and the typical smoke and molly as we are expecting. Just a deep incendiary here so that it would slow down the T's getting to playground, and device is holding that angle. This is smoked by the CTs, and again we know that that's a huge tell. That's the extinguishing sound of the Molotov will be heard by the T's standing monster, and they can assume that the CTs are pushing this position. Because why? Because there's no other main reason to smoke this. And this time, actually, it is the case for once that they're actually pushing this position. But you can see dupreeh has connector. So this is kind of an issue, because if this player was to try to go deep and swing to deal with the player short, there's an off angle here that can be held if necessary by dupreeh. And also this door was blown open, so he gets this crossfire with glaive as well. Without even having, like, he can basically deal with both this guy and anyone coming through this line of sight. So it's a pretty awesome setup. They go through, glaive goes, you know, trying to take the attention basically, which would set dupreeh up. Flashbang comes through the door, so dupreeh can peek this. How sick is this? Like, look at the layers of detail from Astralis. Door is blown open. Again, we talked about all the advantages that he can play back and forth from these positions, worrying about he can deal with this player and anyone pushing his teammate. And the flashbang, the pop flash comes through, pop, and JW is in trouble expecting a swing. There was no swing. It's a late swing, and I guess that doesn't work out for dupreeh. But you can see how like sick the tactical game plan is from Astralis with these maneuvers. It's just really just so satisfying to watch them play this game. Obviously, you know, they're not the only team in the world that does this stuff, but I'm always going to look to them. They are the leaders in tactical play and strategical play and team play. So I'm always going to be using them as the example. Not to say other teams do not come up with awesome stuff as well. Okay, so they've effectively shut down this with a lot of craziness, but the pick in connector was pretty huge because it allows fnatic to kind of reset around if they want to. Okay, next opening. Now, this is the 15th round. This is the last one. Okay. So 4 players towards A here. We see some SMGs for Astralis. So that's one of the reasons why they want to get a little bit more crazy here. Pushing glaive close to this bench. And something that Kirby always used to do for Astralis back when he used to play with them. Just always in those positions. And the T's have made their way forwards. So this is different because we do get that one incendiary, but it's not as heavy of a commit. And dupreeh takes connector, devices up on the railing there, behind glaive. And glaive goes aggressive. There's a flash for glaive to swing. And glaive can get behind the player's playground potentially, but Crims might have a gap there, I'm not sure. Either way, as things progress, they choose to fall back. Now let's look at the, so this is a lot of pressure, and it killed like about a good 20 seconds, 25 seconds. We can also look at the action towards B. Smoke goes down, but we don't get any molly short B tunnel. This allows Golden to push forward. So you can see he's actually worrying about the boost there, because this has been so aggressive around here. He kind of has to, and then he clears this, then he clears this. He also cleared that. So now Golden's in position as well, and the CTs have fallen back. So again, this is just an opening that's designed to just create an opportunity for an early kill with the SMG, maybe upgrade a weapon, and it's also designed to force utility from the opponents as well. But it's also just like based on previous rounds and all the openings that they have used, because of Astralis have invested quite a lot typically early into the rounds with their utility. It may be the case that fnatic will want to throw an equal investment down at the beginning of a round to try to counter that and get that advantage. But now Astralis just are like not throwing those nades because they're actually quite light on grenades. You can see at the beginning of this round they didn't have like particularly very many. So this is a more conservative setup from them, where they try to get the bare minimum done in terms of pressure. And this is also another reason why they need to get a kill, because they know that they're behind on weaponry and utility here, so that they need to facilitate a kill, and they're doing it in a way where they haven't before, which is actually committing really hard here with Glaive. It doesn't work out too well, but that about brings it to a close for this video. I think that's one thing that we can talk about here is the consistencies, and it's all about manipulating the opponent's timings. That's what this smoke is about. That's what this Molotov is about. That's what this smoke and these Molotovs are about. Manipulate the opponent's timings. By doing so, by shutting down all these positions, the whole map becomes a question mark, which kills time, which is precious for the T side, and it destroys their utility, which they may need for set pieces, which then in the mid round creates a situation where maybe they don't have enough utility to play a post plant, or it creates a situation where maybe they only have one smoke left. Maybe there's only one good option now for them. So it's about that constant pressure on their economy, on their time, and on their personnel. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe learned some new nades that you need to learn to have a better opening or better openings on your CT sides of Overpass. That's all from me for now. Cheers.